It is November 17th, 2021, and you're watching No Vacancy Live. But where am I? I don't know.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality.
Hey, everybody. Glenn Hausman here. I hope you're all having a wonderful, terrific day. Anthony Melchiori is out on assignment today, but we'll be back tomorrow. And to make things even worse, I'll be here too. Sorry about that, but it's our show, and I'm going to be here as much as I possibly can. You probably have noticed that on days that I'm not here, we don't do a show, and days that Anthony is not here, I still do a show. I'm addicted to this. I love talking to you. And today we're going to have a great topic. We're going to be talking about how to get more women to take on ownership roles in hospitality. But before we get that, I want to thank everybody over at Red Roof. I had an opportunity to do last week and this week, the regional event this past week. We're at the Gaylord Texan we were at the Gaylord Texan in Dallas. Sorry about that. Really grapevine. I still had too much barbecue over at Hard 8, and I'm still recovering from that. So forgive me, everybody, but thanks to the great people over at Red Roof. I got to tell you, I had an opportunity not once, but twice, 2 weeks in a row to sit on stage and interview George Limbert, their new president over there. He got the official role in August of this year. What a great guy. He is so genuine and incredible. I had such a fantastic experience over there. It was great to see all of my friends over at Red Roof. And thank you for allowing me to work with you at that event and be your public face. All right. Also, while we're talking about hotel brands, everybody, if you're looking about investing in brands, our friends over at Radisson are doing a great job over there. I'm going to be featured at their upcoming conference in February, along with my partner, Sean Worker, which we did the book, The Adapters, with. We're going to be presenting a whole program based on that. So I'm thinking, go ahead, get yourself a franchise, invest in a hotel with Radisson, then come see us over there. Pretty simple, right? Go check out Phil Hugh over there at RadissonHotelsAmericas.com, en-us/development. Tell him Glenn sent you, and say hello to Phil Hugh again for me while you're at it, and all of that good stuff. Okay. So today we're going to be talking to a great people. Hold on 1 second. Adam Anderson, man, great to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. Ab and I have bonded over barbecue in the past number of years. So it's great to see you. All right, everybody. Oh, I really did get my hair cut, Colleen. I threatened, and I followed through. That's absolutely right. We'll see how long this lasts. I've got a good engagement with Anthony coming up in Vegas in just a couple of weeks. We are going to be doing a UNLV Shark Tank event with students, with vendors. That's going to be super cool. That takes place on December 1st. So we'll be broadcasting from there on December 1st, and we'll have a pre-recorded show for you on December 2nd. Still trying to figure out what I'm going to do on November 29th because I'm flying. Maybe I'll make you guys watch me while I fly, and you could watch me take a nap or something like that. Now, that is a riveting internet show. But for real, let's get to it right now, and let's welcome from the Castel Project, Peggy Berg, and from She Has a Deal, and for a TLT. Oh, my God, I forgot the last part of it. TLT Solutions. Thank you, Dr. Producer Suzanne over there. Tracy Prigmore. Ladies, so great to see you today. How's everyone doing?
Great, thank you.
It's great.
I hope you guys are not that few of words for the rest of this interview. All right, so the Castel Project is pretty awesome, and we're doing all we can over here to support them. We've had Tracy on the show before. We've had Peggy on the show, but we can't get enough of trying to help great women get ownership positions in hospitality. Now, you guys were, Peggy, you worked to find this organization to help lots of people get into leadership positions in hospitality. I feel like it's kind of expanding now that you're going to this ownership position to help women get there. Where are we right now as we stand as an industry trying to get more awesome women into hotel ownership?
You know, there's a lot of good intentions out there.
Right.
So far, not so many numbers, but the brands are working on it. And honestly, it takes more than the brands working on it to make this change. And that's where programs like the ones that Tracy and I are working on can be so valuable.
Yes. And Tracy, I honestly, I didn't know you were part of the Castel Project. Doesn't surprise me at all. I thought you were doing your own parallel type of thing. So you're involved in the organization as well?
Well, I am a board member for the Castel
Oh,
Project.
now I'm totally embarrassed. Hold on. Poor me. I screwed that one up. That's awesome, Tracy.
Yeah, so I'm on the board, and then Peggy and I have teamed up with, she has a deal on Castel Project to offer more opportunities for women to become hotel owners with Fortuna's Table. So
That's
Fortuna's
awesome.
Table, it's a knowledge network and a place for women to learn about hotel ownership and what it takes, as well as to connect with others who are also pursuing hotel ownership.
Right. That's great. So Peggy, back to you real quick. What is the number one issue that you think that's preventing women from reaching equal footing on the hotel ownership side of things?
It's really about getting started. I know this is hard to imagine, but
It's not hard
it
to
wasn't
imagine.
until
I'm the constant 50-year-old white guy, at least until tomorrow. Then I'll be the 51-year-old white guy.
Okay,
But
so
I also have no idea how to get into it. It's very mysterious to me, and I have a desire to do it, yet I'm confused. So I'm not surprised that other people don't understand how to get in, right? That's what we're talking?
so back when you were a young man in 1988,
Mhm.
women still often had to have a man co-sign a loan in order for them to get a loan.
That's
In
disgusting.
1988, that's when it got to be that that banks couldn't discriminate against women that way. So it's still out there. Getting capital, getting access to financing is still an issue for us.
Mhm.
And also realizing that that it's something that's a reasonable thing to do. It's not been part of our culture. So
Right.
Tracy and I are saying, hey, it's a new era, not that new. It's been 33
Right.
years since 1988, but it's time that we can step into those roles. And
Yes.
even you can step into those roles, borrow some money and get
Maybe,
yourself
yes,
a hotel.
maybe one day. Now, this is shocking to me that women had to get a man to co-sign on a loan. My mom was a teacher in the late 1960s, and when I was coming along, she had to quit because a pregnant woman wasn't allowed to teach in the classroom. How disgusting and ridiculous is that? So, Tracy, and it seems like with all of those issues, it really adds an extra layer of context to me. So it's been so culturally embedded, right, that generations of women have almost been raised with the subliminal tone of no, you can't, and don't bother. Is that an accurate observation?
Yes, it's very accurate. And the fact that I think there's this saying, it's like if you cannot be what you cannot see or what you do not see. And so those professions that have been traditionally carved out for women have been, like teachers, very traditional types of positions. And so the number one thing that we wanted to do with She Has a Deal is to expose and inspire young women to hotel ownership. So they haven't seen it, so it may have not crossed their mind that it's possible. But also when it comes to mentorship, so when you get into certain industries and you learn the ropes and you get elevated in those industries, it's generally because you have met somebody who has taken you under their wing and they're mentoring you in the process. And mentorship tends to happen when you see yourself in someone else.
Right.
And so if there are no women or minimal number of women owning and developing hotels, then there's no one to mentor that generation of women who want to become hotel owners.
Right. So, play on word there. It's been mostly like a mentor they get a tour of the real world and all of that kind of stuff. But women are left out because what you're saying is people want to bring up the next generation that kind of is like them. So these men out there may not be thinking that they could get great women to bring by their sides and mentor. And women may not see opportunity either because they probably want to be mentored by the other women. I'm more confident with the first part of that statement than the second part.
Right. Well, no, it's not necessarily you want to be mentored by a woman. It's just that it's a natural human thing where you see someone, you think, oh, I was like that person.
Right.
But if you're a woman, the men that are in the industry, they're not seeing themselves in you. and they don't see other women doing hotel, development. So they're not looking to you and say, hey, I'm here, I'll help you. I mean, I've had to actually ask, which to me, mentorship is kind of an organic thing, but I've literally asked people, like, will you be my mentor? I don't like to do that. It's kind of geeky,
Right.
but I was bold because I really wanted to learn this business. And I asked a couple of people and they looked at me like, oh, I'm busy.
Right.
And they probably are, of course. But if I were a man that was, maybe similar to them and maybe gender and, gender, race, they might think, yeah, I really want to help this person because I remember when I was there in their position and needing that support, someone helped me.
Right.
But
This
we
is
don't have those women.
Tracy, this is an insidious thing that we're dealing with here, because it's not that people are being bad and don't want to do this. It's just an issue of it doesn't occur to them because it's not in their consciousness, because of the way society has been set up, that we have a very specific way of thinking that needs to be inherently changed. Peggy, that seems like a tall order when I put it that way. You got to be out there with the chisel every day trying to, break down the walls here that are going on. So how does this all work to help get folks that are in leadership positions and ownership positions to open their minds, expand their thoughts, get in the program to help bring up that next generation of great owners? And honestly, if I was helping someone like that, I'd feel pretty darn good about myself.
Well, one of the thoughts we had when we set up Fortuna's Table was it's really time consuming to be a one mentor for one person doing hotel development. I mean, you might as well just build your own hotel.
Right.
So
right,
how
because it's
can
so
we
complex. Every step
crowdsource?
of the way, there's a gajillion things that you need to consider, right?
Well, how do we crowdsource that? And
Right.
that's what Fortuna's Table does. Fortuna's Table uses Zoom tables, brings really terrific people into small groups, talk to 3, 4, 5 women who are working on their own hotel project and share your knowledge with them. So it's kind of bite-sized mentorship.
Right.
Easy to access, easy to do.
Right. And you also have, according to the website, curated posts, videos, templates informing about the journey of hotel ownership. So you're really trying to break it down into all of those different components to not only make it easier for people to understand by breaking it down into smaller components, but by giving people a place to get together, share experiences, share knowledge, and create a sense of confidence. Tracy, is that correct?
That is correct. I mean, I like to refer to it as accelerating knowledge and building up confidence.
Right.
So as an example, if you're interested, so when I was interested, I didn't come from hospitality. I came from healthcare. I invested in real estate, but I had no idea about hotels and how to buy a hotel.
Right.
So it would have been wonderful to have a Fortuna's Table to go to do some research, and instead of Googling all over the place and trying to piece it all together.
Right.
By going to Fortuna's Table, you can equip yourself with knowledge. So when you reach out to, say, the head of, one of the development people at one of the brands, or to a broker, you have some knowledge to have a conversation with them so that they can take you more seriously if you're asking, some of the right questions. Because I felt belittled, or, I wasn't taken seriously when I made those initial phone calls, because I probably was asking some really dumb questions.
Right, because you didn't know what you didn't know, and you didn't have a base to even start at. So, Peggy, that's tough, because when you're starting from the beginning, people are very confused. Plus, when you add in the way society has created different ways of thinking almost for women than men. And what I'm getting at here is, women are instilled with a different set of you can'ts, where a lot of men, I feel like, are given the you cans, right? One example that I see of that is, and this is just an observation I make, feel free to pillory me if I'm wrong, but I find women say they're sorry way more than men, and for no reason at all. Just because a female is in the same space as me and is going to go into a door first, they don't have to say sorry. It's a weird thing to me. And I think it gets to a way of thinking that you probably have to combat to get women to a place of confidence and self-love that's a lot harder than men, which are pretty much imbued with that from, you know, the day they come out of the womb. Am I being correct about that as well? I don't want to seem like, seem like I have no idea what I'm talking about and trying to make it seem like I do.
You know, I love that about Tracy's pitch competition.
Mm-hmm.
You look at those women up there exploring doing a pitch, and there is no "I'm sorry" coming out of them. It's
the best.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And that piece of this is about the imagination, that it's possible to do this, that it's exciting to do this. So I like how the ecosystem for bringing women into ownership, between the pitch competition with this is the imagination, with what the brands are doing, let's introduce the idea and socialize it. And then what Fortuna does, which is let's keep you going, let's keep you moving, let's accelerate what you're doing. Mm-hmm. It took 10 years for me from the day I decided I was going to own a hotel to actually own it.
Wow.
If we have, I know I'm really slow. And I came
Whoa,
out of the industry.
what are you talking about? I'm on 25 years here. You're crushing it compared to me.
Right. But with Tracy says, well, let's accelerate it. Well, let's do that. You know, I'd be happy with 2 years, 3 years. We could do that.
Right. Like Peggy, it shouldn't take that long. I think it took me almost 10 years too, although I made the attempt.
It makes me feel better.
I made the attempt after a couple of years, like a year and a half, but I failed miserably because I didn't have a mentor. I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And so that's really what the foundation of She Has a Deal is, and Fortuna's Table is equipping women with information. So when I started, I would go to strange, people who were owners, and I'd ask questions about how you do it. And they would say, you just do it. And I'm like, wait a minute. I know you don't just build a hotel.
Right.
There are steps that are required. I need the steps, I need the framework. And they literally, I remember once getting in a fight with a gentleman, and this was in Florida, and we were at a bar talking about this development piece. And he was like, he was getting frustrated with me because I needed steps. And so I figured that maybe other women were like me, that we need a little, more detail and framework to get comfortable moving forward and taking on the risk. And so that's what She Has a Deal and Fortuna's Table is doing, is it's providing that framework for the women, so a large part of our foundation is the education.
I think what you also experienced is some of these men out there have been doing it for so long in a particular way that they forget that they even had to learn these things to begin with. So it seems so plainly obvious to them that there's a blind spot that others don't have any idea about this, right? People tell me all the time, I don't know how to do any broadcasting. I don't know. I don't get it. But I remember back when I knew nothing and I had to figure it out. And I'm happy to share that information with people to give them the confidence. And it sounds to me that you have to give people the confidence to not just ask questions, but in themselves. And then also with Fortuna's Table, giving them the platform in order to achieve their best selves and their goals in life. Right?
It's amazing how much this industry is still a family business. I mean, really a family business, from your red roof owners who own a collection of red roofs all the way up to the public companies in our industry. They're still family businesses. So as we think about expanding women and other minorities in ownership, part of that comes from giving opportunity to different people in families. And part of that comes from bringing new people into the industry who might be excited to be hotel owners, but they don't have the kind of, I know how to do this because it's what my family does, that sort of a sensibility about it.
Right. I mean, when you're raised in a hotel,
like
right?
Mine, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, again, for those of you just joining, we're talking about how to help great women get into more ownership positions in hospitality, something I think we've been sadly lacking throughout the years. So, Tracy, do you feel that women that are younger than all of us here collectively, the ones that are in college and stuff like that, are they in a better place than you and Peggy might have been when you were at a similar age in terms of opportunity and confidence?
Absolutely. I think they live in the internet world, and there's so much content on the internet, and so you can see examples, and you can have access to people that you would have never had access to before just by simply DMing them
Right.
in a social media, or you can search for different people that are doing the things that you are interested in doing or the resources that you need. So I think they're in a better position from an information standpoint. And then also they haven't grown up with, you can't. I mean, in my generation, seriously, we would have been told if I said, "Oh, I want to own a hotel,"
Right.
I would have been told, "You can't."
Right.
Definitively, you can't. Whereas they are told they can, and they can see things.
All right, so that's weird to me. I understand it on one hand, but on the other hand, it makes no sense to me because you got all of these amazing Indian American entrepreneurs that literally came over here with pennies in their pocket, somehow managed to hustle and then get a deposit and then start owning hotels or bring over family to do exactly the same thing. So if they can do it, anybody can do it. Anyone can get out there and make a difference and follow their dreams if they put in the work, right, Tracy?
Well, yeah, I believe so. I mean, but I think there's a certain amount of there's some barriers that have to be mitigated. There's some unconscious biases to those who
Absolutely.
hold the key. I think you have to applaud that, the Asian American community for what
Yeah.
they built, the fortitude that they had. But they also came over with some resources, and then they helped each other. I
Right.
mean, that's the key. Like I heard stories, from Al Patel. He told me how his father would help so many different families come over and drive around the country and help them find opportunities and really teach them the business. And so they have that community, they have that network, whereas others, and I would say in the Black community, since I'm a part of the Black community, and then on the women's side, we didn't necessarily have that before, we put together Fortuna's Table and she has a deal. That didn't really exist. That's why I started it, because I knew the challenges that I had breaking into the industry and what I wish I knew before I started and what I learned along the way. So I wanted to be able to share that knowledge, but share it in a way that people can absorb. And so it is complex. So I'm not going to say anyone can come in and do it. I mean, anyone who wants to put in the work, has the grit and the fortitude, can do it. But it also helps a little bit if there's some tools to help you get started. And
Yes,
that's what we're doing.
Absolutely right. Without the proper tools, all the hard work in the world won't help you be successful. Peggy?
At Castell at College, we're out we'll be in 34 colleges and universities, talking to schools this semester, talking to students in hospitality.
It's like 2 a week. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a phenomenal program that Fern Cantor and Lan Elliott have put together with us. A lot of the students that we talk to are very interested in entrepreneurship. They want to become business owners, and they see the hospitality industry as an avenue to be able to do that. But they don't necessarily see the hotel sector as a place that interests them. Lots of business ownership throughout the hospitality industry, but we haven't positioned ourselves as something that's either accessible or desirable to these kids, which is crazy, because we're a terrific opportunity.
Which is leading to problems throughout the whole ecosystem of it, from just getting people to work behind the front desk to every aspect of it, right?
Exactly.
Right. Our friend Craig Sullivan, who also is my co-host on Friday Night Audit. Check that out at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday nights. He said this a little while ago, but it plays into what we're saying right now. Brands are only a part of it, right? Lenders, brokers, architects, insurance, and all others really need to step up. Connecting that to what you were saying, great women need to understand that if they don't like the hotel part of it, there are so many things that play into the hospitality industry, hotel adjacent, that they could find success at. So how are you, I guess, through Fortuna's Table or appearing in schools, helping you get to understand that, sure, maybe you don't want to necessarily own or work in a hotel, but you could be you could buy real estate, you could be a broker, you could do that architecture, you could create a vendor company with great technology and sell to hotels. How is that messaging going?
Students love it. We talk to students about the industry, and it's like a light switch going off.
Right.
It's
Right.
great.
Right, because they just didn't know that you just like, for some reason, all of us think the hotel industry means working at a single hotel. Uh-oh, here she comes.
And that's what I was going to say. This is probably one of the biggest challenge with our students, especially not just the female students, but all of them, and really getting to understand the scope of what the industry is and how many different avenues and opportunities that they can have, and then giving that supportive culture and opportunity for our females to persist up the line in those leadership roles. I know Colleen had even put a comment out there about really trying to go up that pike, and there's been some question about seeing females persist up into those leadership levels, which is really an important piece that I know all of us really, from a female mentorship leadership role, really try and bring into the picture.
Yep. Yeah. Makes sense. Any of you all want to follow up on that, Tracy?
Well, I was just going to say that we haven't intentionally directly talked about the different types of entrepreneurial opportunities, and she has a deal, but we go through a 9-stage hotel investment roadmap. And so we're connecting our participants with all the aspects of what it takes to get to ownership. And so they're making connections with our luminaries who are from all facets of the industry. So from the brokers at the start to sourcing an opportunity, to even the data providers who provide, complimentary data. We have our sponsors who provide data to help our women with their analyses, to the attorneys who help them to draft their contracts and close the deal. And then, of course, if they're designing a hotel or going through a renovation, they're meeting with contractors, designers, architects, et cetera. So I think they're touching all, we're touching all the points as we take them through the roadmap, to ownership. And then we're also, we don't stop through the closing. We talk about asset management and all the opportunities that exist in asset management, and not to forget the management companies. We introduce them to third-party management companies and those companies and what they do. So there's an aspect of understanding that whole entire framework so that you can maybe see yourself in different components of it.
All right. So speaking and seeing yourself in different components, Kyle's asked this question a couple of times, and I got to get to it. He asked for it right at the beginning, essentially. So many great women in line level leadership in hotels, maybe more so than men, but upper management, not so much. Why are women having such a hard time once you get past mid-level management? And I will add, is any percentage of that maybe coming from women themselves who are choosing a different way of living their lives? Because I guess that's potential too, if we're talking about empowering you to be your best self and ultimately who you want to be.
So at Castel Project, we figured out at the very beginning that there's two sides to this. So one side of it is corporate culture. Is it really comfortable, open, accessible for women to move up within the corporate culture?
Right.
But the other side is the women themselves. So what do women need to have that they don't have, or what lessons do they need to learn that they're having a hard time finding in their current environments that will let them accelerate their careers? So we developed the Castel program. We have Build for emerging leaders and Elevate for experienced women in leadership, to give them those tools to move them up faster. We just held the practicum in Atlanta last week for the 2021 cohorts. We had 54 women here, and they are dynamite, and they are totally primed to get out there and do the part that they need to do on their side to enable them to step up. And I know that because part of the program is making sure that they have champions within their companies. We want to make sure that corporate culture side, that there's a way for them to navigate that.
I feel things might be changing, not drastically, but moving in the right direction. I'm hearing more and more companies now talking about making a conscious effort to bring more women into leadership positions. Are you actually seeing that? Or are we stuck in that same old talk that I've been hearing for my entire career?
Last 5 years, it's been a remarkable shift. And I think we're just getting to where it's now, this is something we need to do. We've got the right attitude, and we're just at this is where the rubber hits the road. How do we do it?
Right.
Piece.
Right.
And that's where I hope we'll be making tracks over the next couple of years.
Awesome. Dr. Bagnara, would you like to comment on that?
No, I think we've definitely been getting in towards that direction. I still think we still have a long way to go, but what I'm hopeful for is as we continue to invest in our training in really creating these cultures in our environment so that we can tell these hospitality stories, that we can leverage those stories of our female leaders in traveling up that pipeline to be inspirational. It's hard to see yourself at the top if there's not a lot of stories in between to help visualize yourself getting to that level.
Right. One thing that women have to work against, and Peggy, I'll bring you back in when we see you on screen. One of the things that women have to work against, Tracy, you were talking about that unconscious bias and actual bias. I think that's in the market. I just saw a headline because it was so gross. It was part of a thing I saw on like Board Panda or something like that. And the headline was wife of Chicago Bears lineman wins gold medal in Olympics or something like that. But this was like her third Olympics, and she's been winning gold at all of those Olympics out there. And then they called her basically the man's property there. I mean, what the hell is that about? And how do we change something that's so systemic in the way that people think in order to get them to understand? Anyone?
You got to call them out.
Yep.
You know, like, dude, it's not 1980 anymore.
Right. Right.
Call them out.
If you're calling,
so thank you for calling them out.
Back, so I think women should strike back with stuff like that. All right. This question is for you, Tracy. Maritza is saying, if she has a deal on these other great projects just for college students, she's finding that many programs exist only for people on the scholastic level. I'm going to say that is not true for you.
That is not true. I'm glad that she asked that. So we did initially start with early careers, and I intentionally started with early careers because I knew that we needed to have proof of concept for She Has a Deal platform, and that the women that were early careerists, where we're building the pipeline of future hotel owners and developers, we could test out our whole masterclass educational program and the whole process. So this year, I'm pleased to announce that we do have a second track. So we're building the pipeline with the early careers, and our second track is Today's Woman. So that's for the seasoned professional. So the woman that has a career of experience in hospitality and has been working, whether it's, revenue management or asset management or marketing, sales and marketing, and has worked with owners and helped developers succeed. She now can have an opportunity to own her own hotel. So we're here to help those women who have the wherewithal, but may need additional knowledge or resources to help them succeed in closing the deal and being successful in owning the hotel. So it is called Today's Woman, but it's part of She Has a Deal. It's just a separate track. And so this year we have 13 women in Today's Women in the Today's Woman track, and we have 23 in the traditional early career track.
Awesome. That's fantastic. All right. Colleen is asking, do you think a lot of women are still intimidated by getting in there? I do feel that that's changing, but I also feel that it's still going on. Right, Tracy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as women, we want to get it right. And so we tend to not move forward with things unless we're very confident about what it is and we understand it.
Right.
Well, yeah, I think there is some intimidation, and I think anybody would be intimidated by something they've never done.
Yeah, I don't know. I totally agree with you. Yes. But I think maybe this is just a weird generalization, but I think that again, the way we're programmed genetically and by society, even when men are intimidated, they don't let that stop them as much as when women do. Again, a generalization, but maybe I'm onto something.
Yeah, there's probably some truth to that. I've seen some studies. I don't know specifically the numbers, but I would say
just
in talking with both. Yeah, I would say that, I know men in the business who were starting in the business the same time I was starting in the business, and they told me I aim too low. They were aiming for their first deals at $50 million. And I was like, you know what, if I can just do a $10 to $12 million I deal, I'm good.
Maybe that's more about that particular personality of those specific men in this case, because like I've had a long and storied career of undervaluing myself and what I can do as well. So I get that aspect of it. If I could just do this, then I could do that. But there are a lot of guys that are just like, I'm just going to go right for there.
Well, maybe we ought to be asking ourselves, what are you actually afraid of?
Right.
And,
great question.
I figured out what I am really, really afraid of is having a baby. And frankly, if I can do that, the rest of this stuff, not such a big deal.
Right. I will tell you, I do not have the same fear. But I did, and I still probably have a horrible fear of failure, and conversely, a fear of success at the same time. So both of those things, I think, have prevented me in my life from doing things that probably would have been good for myself. Because what if I do a terrible job and everybody hates me, or I suck at it and I can't feed my family? And then in the other end of it, it's like, what if it works out? Then what? How am I going to be able to handle it? Maybe I shouldn't take that chance in there. So I think that's something a lot of us human beings have to deal with.
Well, I think you need to deal with that if you're going to think about being any sort of an entrepreneur, because odds are at some point along that path, you're going to have a day or a year or 2 years where it's in that, oh my God, I'm upside down here. I'm going to lose my house. And you've got to get past it. You've got to make the business work. And it's something that you have to face, but it's a whole lot easier to face that if you're in a community of people who can put their hand on your shoulder and say, you're gonna be okay. This is how you do it. I went through it.
Right.
Frank went through it. Raj went through it. This is how you do it. It's better if you're in that circumstance than if you're just by yourself and you don't know that another side is possible.
Right. And one of the other things we don't do is celebrate failure enough in our society. Everybody covers that up, but you fail a lot on your way to success. But we don't share enough of those stories. Tracy, I know you wanted to throw something in there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I still have fear of buying a hotel, but you have to manage the fear. You have to manage through the fear. That's how I look at it, is just managing through the fear and knowing that, there will be support if you're in a proper network and the ecosystems that we're building for women. You're going to fail. You have to exercise the failure muscle. I know in my son's school, they had a whole lecture on letting your kids fail. And it really resonated with me that, you have to know that everything doesn't happen exactly the way you intend for it to happen. But if you have a network, or if you've been studying it, you just have to learn how to mitigate, certain risk and downfalls. And probably many of us hoteliers who've made it through COVID are like, wow, if we made it through COVID, then anything's possible.
I'll tell you what, Tracy, similar thing to me. I've been starting a lot of my keynote speeches by talking about how I was where, your hoteliers were. I lost, 85% of everything in March, April of 2020. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to keep my house. I didn't know what was going to happen. So between that and turning 50 this past year, I feel like if those two things could happen and I could survive, then nothing can stop me from achieving whatever I want to do. So I think when you have failure, and whether it's an outside influence or something that you did to yourself, you can learn from that, and it can embolden and empower you and get rid of that fear. Because once you've faced it and you can survive, then that's probably one of the best lessons that you could learn. I've got like the clearest mind I've ever had in my entire life these last 8-9 months now. I just realized no matter what happens, everything will be okay, or it won't. And then you got that.
Yeah, well, when I first started investing in real estate, my biggest fear was that somebody wasn't going to pay, and I'd have to evict them, or I wouldn't have the money to make the mortgage payments. And guess what? I had to evict someone. But once I went through that process, I learned how to mitigate that process. I put new systems in place to lessen the damage. And you know what? I had to evict like 2 or 3 more people in my course of being a single family, hotel or single family investor.
Yep.
So you got to feel the fear and just
Mhm.
go right into it and take the lessons and adopt.
Tracy, how do you mitigate that so you don't get paralyzed by fear?
Yeah, I think it's education. So I do as much research as I can. I mean, I know you can't have all the answers,
Right.
but I try to do as much research as possible. But I also like to write out like what are my weaknesses, or what are things that could happen, and come up with mitigation strategies in advance. So it just feels
Right.
more comfortable if I acknowledge what they are.
Mhm.
I know a lot of times. I remember when I was a chief strategy officer at a health system, and we had multiple CEOs, and when we would work on their business plans and strategic plans, and they wanted me to leave out the weaknesses of the deals or the threats of the different programs we were trying to do. And I'm like, do you understand that those are there so that you can mitigate those, so you can put systems and things in place so that if they happen, that there's less of a negative impact. You don't ignore them. So I think it's really just not ignoring, what some of the challenges might be or the threats.
That's a really great
Mhm.
point, because some of that stuff that, like, I know throughout my life, if I was afraid of something, I would keep putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. And only that does is compound everything, make it a lot worse. You just jump in there and deal with it right away. You don't have to procrastinate. You can deal with the emotions that you're going to have to anyway, but it'll probably be a lot easier to make it through. Peggy, do you want to add to that?
At the Castell program, one of our coaches came in with this thing called 10 saboteurs.
Mhm.
And it turns out that there are these 10, that little voice in the back of your head telling you you can't do it, you ought to be afraid, you got to be scared.
Yeah.
We all have that little voice. It breaks down into 10 different categories. And some of us have a whole lot more of it on one side, fear of somebody laughing at us. And some of it have on a whole lot more of fear of losing money, whatever it might be. Once you name them, it's a lot easier to recognize them. And once you can recognize them, you can control them better. So
Right.
it was a pretty fascinating exercise. I've got some that are off the charts, and I've got some that are pretty well controlled.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Suzanne?
Typically, I try and run through logistically the scenario in my head of where things are going to go. And sometimes, I might wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then my brain is going to keep running through. And so it really becomes more anticipating the needs, if you will. And just one of the ways I try and put it as an analogy to my students when I get them to think about it is when you're driving your car, don't look at just the car in front of you or the car in front of that, but try and look 5, 10, 15, 25 cars ahead and look at all those different scenarios that can play through so that you're better prepared when you're trying to maneuver through that level of fear that you have.
You're like the Gary Kasparov of commuting. That's awesome.
Well, in Boston, you've got to drive that way. Down here in Florida, like I don't have to worry about that at all. People are complaining.
Nobody could drive in Florida. So it doesn't
What?
That is true. Women do have eyes behind in the back of your head. I don't know how, like my mom, all that shit that I was up to over there. That was pretty scary stuff over there. All right, we're starting to run low on time, but Kyle has a question about the wider issue of trying to understand why our industry is having such a hard time with recruitment and retention. Let me just start by saying I believe fundamentally that our society right now is going through a reallocation of how people want to work in our society. The pandemic has opened up a lot of opportunities for people to take control of their own lives in ways that we weren't able to prior because of the technology that we have in place. I've been joking around that at the end of the day, everyone's going to have their own podcast and Etsy store. And realistically, that's just very symbolic of the fact that we can be successful on our own, more likely if we want to. Plus, there's an attitude of, if not now, when? F it. If I'm not going to do it, then why am I even here on this particular planet? I do also fundamentally believe more people will come back into hospitality. But with this reallocation friction going on right now, kind of in the middle of people exploring what they want to do and all of that, followed by other industries paying more and giving better benefits than typical hotels have been doing in the past. How do you ladies see it? Peggy, we'll start with you.
I think technology is going to be a game changer for us. We can make this industry much more workable than it's ever been before. But I also think that I hear so many people, executives in our industry say, well, you know, it's hospitality and people just have to understand that it's for people who love it. And if you love the industry, you're okay making less money and being treated worse. Well, don't tell me I'm going to go to an industry that expects that it's okay for me to make money and be treated worse. I'm not going to do that. So I don't think it has to be that way. And I don't think it ought to be that way.
Right. And I will say one other element that's playing into this is a lot of staff did work for little pay, minimum wage, not much more than minimum wage. And then when COVID hit, we saw all of those mass layoffs. This is not blaming or accusing any of the people that had to do that. They had to do that. But the ramifications of that decision, the unintended consequences of that decision, I see this in the Facebook news groups, are people feeling abandoned. They gave their own and they didn't get back from their company. So that plays into why should I care attitude. Tracy?
Yeah, no, I was one thing before I address that completely is that I think that COVID, you know, God put us all in a timeout. And so people had a chance to like assess, like, what is my life? What am I doing? I mean, they were probably had more time to be quiet or to sit with, you know, where their life was. So I think people had a chance to really think about where they wanted to go and what they wanted to do. And then for some, there were some resources that allowed them to jump in and get started. But back to the fact of, you know, when you talk about being abused or people feeling like they didn't make enough money and no one was there to support them, I think we do a poor job in our industry and others, we're not alone, of having and making sure that frontline staff really understand the value chain of what we do.
Right.
I cannot wait till I get into a position where I can make all of my employees part owners of my assets so that in addition to that, not just make them owners, but help them and educate them on how value is created, why we invest in hotels, and not, you know, not only just the hospitality part of it, but we are in business to make money. And so they have to understand that if there's no money, there's no business. And so I don't think we do a good job of connecting people to understanding how the role that they play contributes to the overall success of the business and how important each step is, or, you know, each handoff is in the industry. For example, I think housekeepers are the most valuable employee in the house.
They're most essential for guest experience.
And we don't treat them like that, Glenn, right? We don't treat them like that. And it is so sad because I can't stand it that if we don't have a clean room. To me, I come from healthcare and we have these things called never, never events, right? You should never, never give somebody the wrong medication or never, never cut off the wrong arm in the surgery, right? And that's more severe, of course. But when I translate that to my hospitality practice and what I do, we should never have a dirty room. I don't care. We should never have broken things in the room that could easily be avoided. And so we have to respect those who are on the front line, making sure that those things happen. And we have to educate them. I've heard some people say, oh, they won't understand the, you know, the profit and loss and the ownership. We don't share that information. I'm like,
if you don't share the information, how are they supposed to understand it?
Right. They will understand. I think everybody understands that 2 minus 1 equals 1. Right. And so if you can share it in a way that
I'm not sure the stock market understands that, but
no, it doesn't. But my point, you know, right, is that I think we can uplift all communities if we just share the understanding of value creation and that you don't just come to work and just because you show up, you get a paycheck. You have to create value and add to the value of what's going on in your business. And let's talk about it. Let's just not expect them to just produce and not understand what they do and how it contributes to the success.
Right.
I love that value idea. I think that's key to what needs to happen.
All right. So we're totally out of time right now. So some final thoughts, shameless plugs allowed for anything that you'd like. Tracy, let's go with you first, please.
Well, yeah, we didn't get a chance to talk about, we were talking about women and the barriers to to be successful and be in hotel ownership. It's really about one of the biggest barriers is access to capital.
Right.
So we're working to make capital proactively available to women who want to own and develop hotels. It's essential, particularly because there's a lot of competition to get the contracts for those particular programs, or those particular hotels, the deals. And so we need to, the industry needs to come together and, find ways that we can make capital more proactively available. There's unconscious biases by those who hold the capital because they haven't seen women and people of color owning and developing. So they seem more risk averse. So we want to change that. So let's start to open our eyes and think about these people are just as brilliant as everyone else. They can be just as successful.
Absolutely.
It's about having the opportunity. And in our business, the opportunity is access to capital.
Right. So speaking frankly for a second, not like I haven't been the entire show, but it must be there must be a degree of more difficulty for achievement for Black women than white women because of bias and unconscious bias. Yes?
Absolutely. And also it's, it's that systemic racism that occurred way back that is having an impact on your ability for Black families to have capital or equity and to have savings. And we know that the net worth, there's a huge difference between the net worth of white families, Black families, Hispanic families. Black families were literally legally locked out of wealth building. And so we're behind. And so, you have to know that there has to be some type of way to, that's the equity part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion is making it equitable. So making the opportunity to succeed, to get into the business equitable. So people always say to me, oh, just go to your family, or, tell people just go raise the money, just get the money from your family, just pass the hat around. That's what we do. And I say to them, some of us and our families could pass the hat around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years and still only come up with a couple of $100,000, whereas others could come up with millions by a couple of phone calls. So we have to be cognizant of that everyone is not starting at the same place. Let's just make the opportunity available to others, and just think about the explosion of innovation our industry will have when it's more inclusive, diverse and inclusive of all the people that we serve.
Peggy?
Shameless plug. Come check out www.fortunastable.org. We'd love to see you there.
Awesome. Very, very quick and to the point. Suzanne, how about you? You got a plug for us today? You got any final thoughts on this particular issue?
I really loved Colleen's last comment and wanted to just see what your take on being surrounded by all of these amazing powerhouse women, especially since Anthony has abandoned you today.
Because Anthony is intimidated by powerhouse women. I'm empowered by it. You know why? Because if women and people of color can find success from what they've done, then I should be able to do that too, because I'm fully aware that I have had more privilege and opportunity than others. So good on you all. And that's the way it should be. And I hope we have more equality, diversity, inclusion as we move forward, because it's absolutely essential. Tracy, you are absolutely right about that. If we have more of a panoply of ideas and cultures and backgrounds all participating in society in an equal way, well, that's the best way that all of us can find even more success than we've had today. I'm tired of that Eurocentricness. Really time for us to all just be people and find success with each other. Thank you all so much for being here with me today. This has been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you for having us, Glenn. We appreciate you.
And listen, y'all, anytime you want to come on the show, just drop me, Suzanne, producer Dave, a note, and we'll have you come back on anytime. It's absolutely essential for us over here at No Vacancy to continue to tell these important stories of diversity and inclusion. It is absolutely important for us to be able to make sure that all of you out there get the opportunities that you deserve, that you've earned, and make sure that we get more executives of color and women in those boardrooms helping to make decisions so we could all be more profitable in the end. All right, thanks again. I'll see you all later.
Hey, Glenn, one thing before we go.
Absolutely.
Hey, April 28th and 29th in McLean, Virginia is the Shad Pitch 2022.
Oh, sweet.
I'd love if you and Anthony would come out and do your
Yeah.
show live
Yeah.
from the Hilton Innovation Gallery. We'd love to see you for Shad Pitch 2022.
Yeah, 2 words. Heck yeah. We will absolutely do that. If there's anything else that we could help you do to be more successful, let us know, because I won't be able to sleep at night unless I can make sure that we do our part. I'm so blessed and so honored to have a platform like this, and for us to be able to help tell these great stories, help create opportunity for others in the future. That's what it's all about. People gave me a shot growing up, and now I gotta make sure that we share the love with absolutely everyone. You know, instead of saying goodbye again to you in this way, let's just end the show right here. Thanks all so much for being here. Be sure you follow our audio feed. Find it on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all of those guys. Suzanne, did you turn that off on me? I did such a good job remembering to put it on. There we go. Check it out wherever you guys get your podcast. Well, that's where we'll be. If you want to reach out to us, he's at Anthony Hotels. I am at Traveling Glenn. So now here's the tricky part. You all have got to come up with a quick thing to say at the end of the show to send us off. All right. My line is, you've got one life, so blaze on. Tracy.
Peace and love.
Beautiful. Peggy.
Glad to be here with you.
Suzanne.
Smile and smell the roses.
And as Anthony would say, be kind to yourself. See y'all tomorrow. Anthony will be back in studio. We've got Sarah Dandashi on the show, another freaking badass female that has just published a book. You won't want to miss that show. Plus, we're going to be doing a little Ask Anthony and Glenn. See you all there. Have a great evening or afternoon or morning, whatever part of the world you're in. Enjoy the rest of what your day is. See you later.
Thank you.